Hello everybody, this is my fourth video to this YouTube channel. The last one, I learned a valuable lesson. Don't try to make a video when you're not feeling it. Because, earlier that day, after making that third video, I just got off the phone with my bookkeeper and I had some receipts that I had to find and I was getting a little stressed out because I had to get these things into her. And you know what? I just wasn't feeling it, but I still forced myself to do that video. And it didn't help that it was a little bit of a heavier topic, but that's okay. Because you know what? I learned from it. And that's all we can ask from ourselves. When we're doing something brand new in our lives, how big it is, no matter how big it is, we have to know that we have to start somewhere in life. Okay, that's a big lesson for me. Now, I used to be the kind of person to get down on myself terribly about anything I was trying to do for the very first time. Here's a little tidbit of information though. There's not a single thing on this planet that I have started off in a great way. Meaning so that every single thing that I've done to this point that I have eventually been okay at, good at, great at, excelled at, I started from the bottom. No matter what that has been, no matter what life skill, no matter what obstacle, I have started at the lowest rung a person can start at with every skill, everything somebody could imagine. And it has led me to this point. Which, you know what, I wasn't feeling it to the other day, and I still made that video. You know what, that's okay. I learned from my lesson, but you know what, it also struck another video, because when I did feel the inspiration, when I did feel the moment hit, and I felt the excitement kind of fill my veins and get my brain start rolling 1,000 miles a minute, like it did tonight, I rolled out of bed at 11:30 p.m. I got into my workspace because this video is something that really need to happen tonight, because I feel like it also will resonate with a lot of people. Now, that's not saying my last video isn't going to resonate with a lot of people within due time. It's just that my energy, it was hard for me to do the video because one, it was a tough topic for sure. But, another one, I came into it already kind of drained a little bit about prior things that were happening in my life. But this video, okay, this little 10, 20-minute video that we're going to have here has been something I've contemplated and have on the top of my mind for a long time, okay? Now, it comes to a story that really is close to my heart. Now, for those who know me, know that I started a clothing company out of the trunk of my car about 8.5 years ago from when this video is recorded. Okay, 2017, I created a clothing company out of the trunk of my car. I started with about 100 t-shirts, and I think it took me a couple paychecks to save up for that 100 t-shirts. What started happening is I started selling my t-shirts out of the trunk of my car, and I did that for about 6 months. Now, the original idea of having a clothing company came from a grade 1 art project that our art teacher gave to us back in the day. Now, I love the idea, the concept so much of having your own label, your own brand on something in this world, that when I was going through a transition part-time of my life, as a younger adult, I realized it was something that I want to make become a reality. Now, some of the things that inspired me to do that in the first place was always, of course, coming across people at different stages, at different places in my life at that time, who used to tell me that they had somewhat of an invisible line in the sand that they can't cross. Now, I used to be a person who used to work with youth in a youth care home, and I would run into either staff or kids that used to tell me just because they were brought up a certain way or because they grew up a certain way, that they have like an invisible line in the sand for them to not be able to cross a certain threshold for their own potential. Now, this bothered me coming from a life of addiction beforehand, and somebody who still struggled at this time in my life, unfortunately, with mental health issues and some addiction issues. Those paths have been crossed, and I'm thankful to be where I'm at in my life now. But in saying this used to bother me when people who, whether it's just first interactions or whether it's people became friends of mine or kids that, I nurtured and cared for a while, that they had this train of thought that there's an invisible line in the sand of their own potential of how far their life could go. Now, it bothered me because I came back from hard drug addiction. I came from issues that I never thought I would have been able to cross over that threshold of life, that invisible line. And you know what? I did. And that's why it bothered me so much when I would run into people who used to tell me that they have a barrier in life and they can't cross this. Whether it's other people who told them that they couldn't or whether they told themselves that they couldn't. Okay, either way, it bothered me. So that was one of the main reasons why my clothing company, Limitless Gear Clothing, why the idea of it was sparked in the first place. Because I came back from that life and I want to inspire people that they had a beautiful potential within themselves and that they just had to find a way to climb out of, the hole that they used to hold themselves. A line in the sand that they used to hold themselves behind, or an invisible roof that they could only reach so far of their own potential, and that is only the height that they can climb. Now, I had the idea that this brand was going to be more than a t-shirt, more than a hat, and I want to show people that they can reach for different levels of their own life. And the beautiful thing is, 8.5 years later, I'm standing in a full workspace that my company out of the trunk of my car 8.5 years ago provided for me and my family. Whether it is a business loan or not, it provided me a whole new workspace specifically on these kind of things in my life. And that's beautiful. But I want to talk about something that's very important, a part of that concept, a part of something that comes across our lives, no matter what different stage of life or different part of life that we're at in life. Now, I believe at whatever path we cross in life, we have different levels that we are able to climb up to, okay? But to get to that nether level, that other level, we have to go beyond what is comfortable for us. We have to reach for a new potential within us. We have to step outside of something that isn't comfortable for us. Because one of the biggest concepts that I've learned in my life is that there is a lot of beauty on stepping on the outside of comfortability. Now, because if somebody did something every single time that they were perfectly ready in order to start something beautiful, not many beautiful things would be done in this world. Now, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm trying to be, light a fire in people's minds and their stomachs when they get this analogy. It's because every single thing that I've ever done professionally, whether it's trying to create or publish a book, whether it's starting a business out of the trunk of my car, whether it's speaking in front of people as a full-time profession, okay, everything I've ever done, including starting this YouTube channel, did not start off pretty like I started this video with, okay? Whether it's me, the public speaking stage, okay? Maybe I started with a classroom of elementary kids. Well, then we moved to a high school, okay? And then it was, a bigger high school. And then it was starting to be, universities, colleges, okay? Then it was corporate engagements. And now it's communities of people. And now, my below threshold of what makes me uncomfortable is doing things that I don't do very often. And that is sometimes accepting contracts and agreements to go do things like be a master of ceremonies at events. Something I've only really done like twice in my life as a profession. But every time that question comes up, it is me completely stepping outside the comfort zone and doing something that completely scares me. Now, one of the last times I said yes to that opportunity was me to travel to Ontario. I'm based in Saskatchewan. For me to drive to Ontario, or sorry, fly to Ontario to take one of these engagements where I'm not normally an MC, to step into a community that I've never been to before, okay, to speak in front of people that I don't know a single soul, that was not easy for me. But the first time I said yes to accepting a role of that same manner, maybe it was about a year and a half before that, I think it was, where I spoke as a master of ceremonies for this organization called SUMA, which is all the town mayors and councillors in Saskatchewan and administrative people as well too. 1,000 people was my very first, professional MC event. Lots of times people kind of start off maybe with the first step, okay, the second step. They don't normally go to 1,000 people for their first professional master of ceremonies, engagement. But at that time, I was able to say yes at a lot of different speaking engagements where I shared my lived experiences through addictions and mental health issues. And of course, when that, 1,000-person master of ceremonies event came up, I already had a few hundred engagements under my belt speaking publicly in front of people. And when I spoke for these people the year before at their convention, I got a standing ovation for sharing my open heart and my transparent truth, what I had to offer these people. Because I remember the phone call that I got from these folks when they asked me if I want to be the master of ceremonies for their next year's convention. I giggled. I remember I chuckled. I said, you guys know that's not what I do, right? And I remember another chuckle on the other side of the phone saying, yeah, we know, Cody, but you connected with our audience such in a good way last year. We thought we'd welcome you back if you'd be up for it. It took me a few days to realize the opportunity that was bestowed in front of me that was on the other side of fear. Now, fear is not an easy thing to get across, to get over, okay? Fear is something that can be paralyzing. Fear is something that can be, halting in any sort of momentum. But, like I said, maybe once or twice in this video, I can't remember because, sometimes I speak a little bit quicker than I can remember. On the other side of fear, there's a lot of beauty, okay? There's a lot of beauty. Now, sometimes it takes us just climbing these different steps of fear and success and new levels, okay? And every time we climb a new level, we have to go through another set or another stage or another phase of fear. Now, a particular story I have in mind is when I would like to talk about my clothing company. Not that I just started out of the trunk of my car, moved it to a retail store. Now closed the retail store 2 years ago to become a full-time professional speaker and life coach. But it was also, to see what kind of partnerships could be done with the clothing company so that I could also be on the road doing those kind of things that I love doing. And it went from me having one store 2 years ago, and after me closing my store down, to now I sell my products in about 8 locations, close to 10 locations around Saskatchewan, where I sell my books, I sell my hoodies, I sell my hats. And, that was another stage of fear, every single level. And we had to progress. The two options were either progress or back up and just maybe stay at the same level, okay? Now, if I stayed at that same level for the last 2 years, I might not have been able to stay in self-employment because things have changed drastically. Cost of life has changed drastically. We've had now 3 kids in our life that, a few years ago when I started my storefront in my home city of Prince Albert, we didn't have any kids. Okay, so things have changed, which means I have more responsibility. I have more people's, that I have to take care of. I have more mouths to feed now and more mouths to support. And I love that. But I don't know if that old dream of me keeping my storefront would have provided what it needs to provide of where the level is of where my life is now with the 3 kids and my beautiful wife who, stays at home with our kids while she's on especially mat leave. But beforehand, she was a casual person at work as a healthcare professional. Now, if I stayed in that same dream of me having that same store, I don't know if it would have been that possible to take care of all the responsibilities that I take care of now in that same dream, that same level. Okay. And that's why it is important for us to step on the other side of fear to what the beauty is on the other side. Now, a story that I specifically want to talk about is hats. Okay. Not a big deal. Hats are a big part of what I do when it comes to my clothing company. But it was the story behind it that will really resonate with a lot of people after you get a chance to hear what I'm going to say. Okay? So when I first started trying to sell hats, part of my company, about 8 years ago, okay, after a few runs, a few orders of just t-shirts, and then it became, higher quality t-shirts, and then it became different prints of t-shirts, okay? And then I think I mixed in hoodies actually before I even got to hats, okay? So once again, different stair levels, different stages of progression. Now, I still remember buying my very first 12 hats from a local company in my home city. Okay, those 12 hats, I wasn't getting the best price out of those hats because, truly that's how things go, right? You evolve, you get your knowledge, you get your experience, and you get your understanding of what's the best way to make things work. At that time, I went to a company. I said, I think I want hats. Okay, let's try 12. Let's see what happens. And I paid maybe $20-ish per hat. Okay, it was probably closer to like 25 if I can remember correctly. Those 12 hats cost me about $250 to buy. And at that moment in my life, once again, it was kind of like, what money I have in the bank account that's free in my own savings, we're going to just go ahead and go into this dream and put it all on hats. I think that's why I only got 12, because I don't think I had much money at that time also. So I just went with what I thought I could afford. Okay. About 8 years later, about half a year ago from where I'm recording this video now, I'm preparing and getting ready for quite a few of events that I have planned. I'm getting ready for orders that I have planned for some of my different wholesale partners. I'm getting ready for a few different things that I also have in line. Knowing all of these things coming into place, and also, by the way, trying to incorporate other people's time and responsibility to their life and their families and their businesses, okay, I get these patches made from a local supplier that's close to where I'm at. I order these hats from a Canadian supplier. And then I take all of it and I take it to a very good friend of mine who stitches it on my hats for me, sometimes while we drink coffee. He's a good friend. He's a great person, great hard worker. I love the guy. His kids call me Elmo, and that means uncle in his language. A beautiful family. But I know this gentleman has a hard time keeping up with his business because he is somebody who is in very high demand in his own business. And that's beautiful. I'm happy for him. But one of the things that I knew is that if I need to have a lot of stock on hand, I need to kind of go all in. I need to have my backup plans in phase so that I can have stock for a couple months here. So what I did is I went and bought, I think it was somewhere around 500 plus hats, okay? And then 500 plus patches, okay? And then it was the time that I had to pay for this gentleman to do the stitching on my hat. Okay, now with everything mixed in together, I remember my cost of this batch of hats cost me about $8,000. Now, 8 years later or so, and about almost an $8,000 difference. You know why? It's because I continued and I wanted to, and I continued to persist, even though each staircase step of different stage of life and different stage of level of life, of business and everything else, I continued to push past what I was comfortable with. Now, I have became pretty consistent in this train of thought that every time I am starting to feel too comfortable in my business, that means I need to do something that's out of the norm for me to continue evolving. Now, it kind of works well with my addictive personality traits, okay? Kind of works well with my ADHD. Now, it's not a lifestyle that works for everybody. Some of my best friends have told me, I don't want the life that you have. I need to know that me going to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, is going to return me X amount so I can pay for the things that I have in my life. Or I have friends that are shift work and they say, I need to be able to go to this many shifts in order to know that I can do what I need to do for my family. And I love that for them too. But for me, this has worked well in my life. When I reach a certain threshold, I need to now move things up another notch. And I need to push what used to feel not comfortable for me to another level. And for me, that's where I get the most experience from. That's where I get the most growth from. That's where I get the most fulfillment from. Now, not everyone is cut the same exact way as a person. I know that. But for me, it works great. Now, one of the things that I'm doing to go up another staircase in my life is doing this YouTube channel. Now, I know 50 videos down the line, 100 videos down the line, I'm going to probably look at the first video, the second video of this YouTube channel, and I'm going to be biting my teeth, just like I was when I tried to start a YouTube channel 5 years ago. But something has changed in my life since then, okay? I have 3 kids now. I got 3 extra responsibilities in my life to take care of. And you know what? I'm on the road quite a bit. I love being able to speak in front of people. I love being able to give people knowledge and advice that they maybe can use in their life to better their own lives. I can't be everywhere at once. And that's why I thought truly one of the great reasons for me to start these videos is that no matter where somebody is in their life, no matter what time it is somebody or where somebody is at their life, that they can watch one of these videos and they can maybe grab some inspiration, some motivation, some tools, some techniques, whatever it's going to be in this YouTube channel. And then they can grab it and then they can go up a different staircase level of their own life. And they can maybe step outside of what's comfortable to them to go to the next level. Now, I love that idea. I truly do. And for me, maybe, like I said in my very first video, I think it was, speaking in front of, last couple years alone, over 300-ish, over a couple hundred for sure engagements over the last 3 years alone, has made me that much more confident and able to do these kind of things in front of a camera like this, where 5 years ago, I would not be able to communicate through a camera to hopefully the folks that I'm getting a chance to chat with. And that's a part of, growth in itself. So a message that I would love to share with everyone for sure is if you find value, if you enjoy this kind of content, please maybe give it a share, give it a like, and maybe comment of whether or not you like this video or not, or what you gathered from this video or not, okay? because my goal is to continue learning and developing my own self in order to make videos like this and different styles and different versions for whoever's going to be listening. Whether it's 10 people, whether it's 1,000 people, whatever the numbers are eventually or within enough time, I'm just happy to be able to do something that I know guarantee is going to at least help one person. That's a guarantee. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And I love that. Now, if you've contemplated stepping into what's uncomfortable for yourself, it doesn't mean you have to dive off the deep end at 100, feet in the air into the pool. Maybe you start at 10 feet, okay? 10 feet on the staircase. Maybe you start at 20. Whatever feels a little uncomfortable for you, maybe you take that next step. So, why not give it a go? Whatever that is in life, whether it's business, whether it's life, whether it's a new adventure that you've been thinking of, maybe just try and step into what's a little uncomfortable and see how you feel after that. Regardless of what happens, you will have those skills, you will have that knowledge, and you will have that new comfortability of stepping into the unknown. Something that is very hard for a person to do. It's hard for me to do it too, so I understand. But I do credit a lot of the places where I've been able to go in my life to just stepping into the unknown. Now, once you believe you have the ability and capacity to do great things, that's when I truly believe life can become limitless. Thank you for watching.